Hello and welcome back to the Shed Geek Podcast. Here's a message from our studio sponsor. Let's be real. Running a shed business today isn't just about building great sheds. The industry is changing fast. We're all feeling the squeeze, competing for fewer buyers while expectations keep climbing. And yet, I hear from many of you that you are still juggling spreadsheets, clunky software, or disconnected systems. You're spending more time managing chaos than actually growing your business. That's why I want to talk to you about our studio sponsor, ShedPro. If you're not already using them, I really think you should check them out. ShedPro combines your 3D configurator, point of sale, RTO contracts, inventory, deliveries, and dealer tools all in one platform. They even integrate cleanly into our Shed Geek marketing solutions. From website lead to final delivery, you can quote, contract, collect payment, and schedule delivery in one clean workflow. No more double entries, no more back and forth chaos. Quoting is faster, orders are cleaner. And instead of chasing down paperwork, you're actually running your business. And if you mention Shed Geek, you'll get 25% off all setup fees. Check it out at shedpro.co/ShedGeek. Thank you, ShedPro, for being our studio sponsor, and honestly, for building something that helps the industry.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast here in Metropolis, Illinois. I'd love to say sunny Metropolis. It is. We got green grass coming in, Cord, but man, we got water, and we are waterlogged here today. And Cord knows all that all too well. What's that?
Soggy Metropolis, not sunny Metropolis.
Soggy Metropolis. Cord knows all that all too well as he went up to get into the building today. We're working a Saturday. That's right. We work Saturdays over here. You know, we ain't scared. And Cord got soaking wet on his way in because the thumbprint on the door wasn't working. So, it's, that's to my delight, and I get to laugh about that. But before we get rolling, a couple ways to just a couple things, ways to stay plugged in with us over here at Shed Geek. Our phone number 618-309-3648. Email us at info@shedgeek.com, and of course our website is shedgeek.com. We, as you guys know, we have a couple of Facebook pages out there: the Shed Sales Professionals, the Carport Sales Professionals. Please go and like those groups or accept an invite from those if you see that coming into your email. And for the plane community or your plane community friends, feel free to share this number with them, 330-997-3055. I did hear recently where a couple plane community friends of mine was saying that the line was staticky. So we've got to get with those guys and kind of see, we want to make sure that your listening quality is good. You do have options to save and go back and replay if you do listen on that call-in landline. So by all means, feel free to let me know whenever you see any problems like that. Hot item of the day. Well, I don't want to say who, but we get to have dinner tonight with an executive in the shed manufacturing world, and I'm very excited about that, Cord. But for their safety, we will leave them unnamed.
Yeah, the big time. As we commonly talk about, some of the wherever that number has gotten to now, big 5, big 6, big 7. It feels like there are really some companies that are climbing at the moment. But we always enjoy talking to those guys, the top executives, the top management teams of these companies, because they really have some of the best information, the best data, the best insights because of their footprint, because of what they have going on. And, I'm of the mind, and I think you are too, that those same types of insights can apply to every listener, right? Whether you're a dealer, whether you are a smaller manufacturer, even a vendor in the industry, reading those tea leaves and hearing that high level insight is really just invaluable for us. So yeah, we're going to enjoy ourselves and eat a steak dinner and, see if a guy who has an E in his in his title, I guess, are we picking up the check? Is he picking up the check? Who knows?
Oh no, who knows? We'll find out. We'll report later. Honestly, got the chance to meet with a lot of these guys, especially the executives, and they're always so kind to pick up the check. So that's typically what my experience has been. I probably owe them a debt of gratitude, if nothing else. So today we want to talk about why is it me and Cord? Oh no, there's not a guest. Well, we are the guest and we're the host, I guess. But we've been thinking a lot about the podcast and how some of this shakes out. And of course, with Steel Kings taking a breather right now, and we're going to see what that lines up in the next, 6 months or so, and try and figure out how we want to approach addressing the steel side of this industry, which is kind of bled over into sheds and vice versa. But I've done monologues for a long time. Used to do like a mid-year, end-year, just kind of taking a look at like what's ahead, what's behind. We want to go over the numbers, talk about some of that. And my thought was, Cord, for me and you to just get on here and have a conversation. And like maybe that starts with a prompt from shed sales professionals, shed haulers, shed manufacturers group on Facebook. What are the things people are talking about? What are the things that conversations, that involve conversations taking place, all across the country on phone calls, on video chats, some hard questions, some things hitting the industry. Talk about the shift of the industry. And I think more than anything, man, talk about the fact that we're into year 6 now here at Shed Geek. March was officially starting year 6 of creating content of at least one show per week for the last 5 years, sometimes up to 2 and even 3 shows a week. Trying to be here, free of charge, fun, entertaining, educational, and just for your benefit in the shed industry, which is why I think it's so important for you guys to come on the show and know where we kill in interviews. We got tons of them lined up. We can't wait, to do these interviews. It's going to be great. I think we can do some different series of different thoughts, maybe for, just better for the listener engagement overall to learn about, rent own guys talking, manufacturing guys talking, marketing guys talk, whatever. Like, let's just run those series. And probably more than anything, the most exciting thing, for me this year, I feel like is the branching into the advertising a little bit more and creating some sturdiness around that. Bringing on some new partners, starting the exclusive opportunity for some of them. We are in the industry. We cover the industry. Everyone's invited on the podcast. No one is excluded from the podcast. Just to be clear, we've always enjoyed talking to you, but we do have some exclusive advertisers that we promote, we push. You guys have seen some of them, Joe at Velocity 360, Hirschberger Lawn, Playmore and Striker Hunting Blinds, and J Money. And of course, our latest partner, Pittsburgh Paint, which I'm super excited about, bringing on a national paint vendor. And, they're going through this rebrand. They're really doing some good things. And I think personally, Cord, your selection of paint makes that first impression on you as a customer. But, if you're a shed builder, that's just sort of part of the equation.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think, we had Jamie and Carter on, and them introducing the True Industrial and the True Shed Max, the Shed program. I think it's such a benefit. Of course, they have the product side, the coatings, whether that be the solid acrylics and the semi-transparent urethanes, of course, all the things that are needed in the shed industry. But it's so much more than that. The way they describe it, it is a true shed first, industry first program that is on the service side, that is obviously on the product side, on the equipment side, and even on the training side and application. We've even thrown around the idea of you putting a paint suit on and going out and getting one of those demos. So, to me, the benefit here of the True Shed Max Shed program is what they're calling it, is the fact that it is so focused on the needs of the industry itself.
Well, you get the full suite of supporting products. You get the high quality durable coatings, but it's more than just paint. And here's where they're really pressing in. They're pressing in on the availability with the True Industrial, in training in local stores, local stock, local service. When you need a product, when you need answers, you need training, it's nearby. That's the key. Your local manufacturer can go over to the local store, actually get a solution. Big fan of what they're doing at Pittsburgh Paint, the True Industrial, and True Shed Max Shed program.
Yeah. And so, for anybody out there who wants to know more about that, learn more about that, Obviously, you can reach out to them directly. I already mentioned Carter and Jamie. They've been on the podcast. Go back, review those episodes, see what they have to say for themselves. Delightful guests. Love those guys. So reach out to them directly, or of course, always, if you want to know more about True Industrial and the True Shed Max Shed program, you can reach out to us. We want to be those connectors, those educators, for all of our advertisers, really for the whole industry. And honestly, Shannon, that just goes right back into what you were saying at the beginning, the sort of style of the episode itself. It really is almost pulling back that curtain, an insider's look. Sometimes we save a conversation, say, gosh, we have to capture this, on a podcast, because the amount of conversations coming from dealers, manufacturers, vendors, what I would call industry insiders, that happens around this office every week. Our ability to connect and to bring value by just kind of enlightening, the rest of the industry as to where those conversations are going, and what that kind of looks like, where the industry is headed. I mean, that is the value that we bring, right? So, I know that some people may view it as self-promotional. Well, I mean, I don't know that we're promoting anything ourselves. We're talking about Pittsburgh and our partners, and obviously, we offer services as well. But more importantly than that, this is really a peek behind the curtain as to the conversations, the direction that we have around the office every week, which is why I love coming into work, and why this is such a unique place to be.
Well, after doing nearly 500 episodes or releasing nearly 500 episodes, you just pull back on cord, like how the industry's grown up. You hear about people like Jason Graber at Shed Suite starting out, at Graceland years ago, which is where I started in purchasing, and then ultimately going on to create one of the premier point of sale systems and things like that. Well, that's the way a lot of people in this industry sort of migrate. They start out and then they see a problem that they need to solve for themselves. And then they're like, hey, I can sell this to the rest of the industry. And that's why we're so interconnected a lot of times. That's why you see a manufacturer who might be a competitor who also offers a solution for you. Maybe it's doors, maybe it's windows, right? Maybe it's metal, maybe it's software, maybe it's RTO software, maybe it's point of sale software, whatever. The industry kind of grows up in that strange way. And I think we've had a unique bird's eye view from the ability of traveling in probably 30 states and interviewing so many people, and there's so many left to go, that like we can kind of get on here and dispel that information out into hopefully some kind of something that makes sense. So it's not just me and Cord talking. It's not just me and him just having fun on a Saturday for no good reason, talking sheds, although that's a good enough reason to get on here and talk. We love the interviews. And look, I can't say enough about, a thank you. We sent out an email recently asking, hey, does anybody want to be on the show? We got tons of requests. I was very happy about that. People just being supportive. We want to continue to interview you guys, whether you're a product provider, service provider, or whatever your story is. I feel like God has made you unique and your story is unique. And I think that your story is your testimony. It helps to tell about how you got here, what your experience has been, and where you think it's going, and like how we all just sort of interconnect as a community. And that can become very tough because we're also sometimes competitors. So we're trying to hold down the mantle of, letting people be involved. I get it. The exclusive provider doesn't feel that way, but hey, look, these are guys who are supporting our process. And I think you guys can understand that. They're supporting what we're doing, and they're saying, hey, this is a valuable network, and we want to tap into it. And we thank them for that. And because of that, they deserve this. Not to mention, I think we've done really good to like identify some of the best of the best. I mean, what you're seeing with Joe and what he's doing on Velocity CRM, I mean, like you're just not hearing any other name pop up.
Incredible.
And no offense, guys, I'm not trying to like offend anyone. I'm just hearing people give such like positive feedback for it.
Yeah.
Right. Like we signed up two striker dealers, yesterday. I was really happy about that. I mean, I love David Hirschberger and what the product they got up there. So that's why we enjoy partnering with these people and telling you about it. I don't know. Pittsburgh, what a great addition.
Yeah. And we, I mean, obviously all those are advertisers and exclusive providers and everything else. But the reality is we do these kind of connections and things just behind the scenes. I mean, this is what the week looks like. Of course, for those guys, it's a more of a direct outreach and direct promotion.
Yeah.
But like, even just this week with finding some wholesale dealers for a manufacturer out there in the Knoxville area. I feel like there's probably three different things that got connected, not just for that manufacturer, but just different business items, things that people are looking for, just really trying to help. And so, I think that is the guiding principle around here. Certainly that is what I have I already knew it, but I've come to know it even more, and it continues to be true. So keep reaching out to us. I mean, I'm not saying that every single question we just have a direct answer for, but more often than not, we know the person, or I say Shannon knows the person personally who does have the right answer. And so we can move the needle on those things. But Shannon, I know you want to talk about the numbers, and we've had some really good weeks and some really good engagement and everything else. But I have to say, the most genuine way to just say, is this the type of conversation? Are we recording the type of conversation we have around the office? We've been pushing finance and pushing the idea of finance in the industry for a long time. Of course, Jay Money, Joel Oney over there, is a partner of ours, and we believe not only in him, but in that idea, the idea that, getting finance penetration into the industry makes for a healthier industry for several reasons, whether that be, the basically you throw the logistics of RTO out the window. It's more enforceable from a collections perspective, everything else like that. But so when we hear that it sounds like that one of the players in the RTO space, one of the big players, seems to be headed in that direction, I really just want to know what you think about it, Shannon.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it's overall, I think it depends on your perspective. I remember going to a Bible, like a Sunday school Bible study one time, and we were going through a book. This 15, 16, maybe 20 years ago. And the title was called Perspective. And we spent a whole, several Sundays, the whole book talking about what perspective you see the worldview from as a Christian, right? So like, I think that you can do the same in business. And like, what is your perspective? Is your perspective from a dealer? Is your perspective from a manufacturer? Is it from a customer? Is it from the RTO side or a product or service provider? And I think that the question there is like, maybe not as much like, what do you hope to gain, but how do you hope to help? Like, what is the best way to help? And sometimes that means helping yourself. We've talked about here with advertising, like, we have to keep the lights on, right? So like we have to, charge, it's the same way you have to charge for, with a customer. But what RTO has done is, it's really unbalanced in my opinion. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think I would probably come down on the side of trying to balance it out more. So take whatever you want from that. But, we provide RTO services, very excited about this year and what we're going to be doing on that. And trying to find unique ideas. But I think that as finance gets more, like finance is more popular than rent to own in most cases, just not in the shed industry. I mean, typically speaking, if you're, getting a home loan or wanting to build a new shop. Oh, and by the way, we can help you with that too. If you're looking for connections, look, we are trying to be connection central over here and connect you to whatever it is that you need. We've been able to like have a good network and hopefully it works for you. But so my thought is this, Cord, that ultimately if you're in business and you hang your shingle out and you say, I'm in business to do this thing. I'm a lawyer. I'm a graphic designer. Like I am a welder, whatever it is your perspective to focus on what's best for the customer or to focus on what is best for your business? And the truth is, it's not in the best interest of the RTO companies to adapt an actual finance program, because now it competes with that upper echelon of like customers who probably have a higher FICO score and could qualify, but the convenience of being at a lot and just purchasing a shed on RTO, or not having to put it through their credit, or put it on a 90-day same as cash, and whatever it is, it becomes more beneficial than just going down to your bank and getting a loan. Now we can get into a different perspective, which is the educational system in America probably doesn't do a very good job of teaching finances, right? You never learn about taxes when you're in school. You learn about mitochondria and photosynthesis, right? But nobody tells you you got to pay taxes when you get older. And the reality is you just don't know about financing, how it works. And so there's a whole different conversation there that maybe we should do a podcast on, the basics, and have somebody come in and describe those. But rent to own, it's not in their best interest, really, to bring in a finance partner or to offer a finance service. But I'm very happy to see that they're adapting that. I think that's, if you look at it from the perspective I think I'm coming from on this episode here, is to talk about what benefits the customer the most. And I think, a $5,000 shed that doesn't cost $10,000 on rent own, but instead costs, a $7,200 on finance, saves them money. Now it does it take away from the RTO provider or the RTO investors? Of course. But like, how do you really keep finance out? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, whenever it makes so much sense to the consumer.
I got a big day tomorrow. I have a fully finished 18 by 40 cabin that's going to require 2 to 3 meals to get it delivered. Way back in the sticks and down a dirt lane. With all the rain we've had lately, it's going to be a mess. Well, it needs a bigger mule.
Well, when you talk, Cardinal listens, and you asked for it. With its diesel-powered 69-horse engine and capacity to move 40,000-pound sheds, the Mule 9069 is ready to turn your big days into just another day in the good life.
Ah, that's right. You're talking about the one they had up in Michigan at the shed show. That monster mule, that thing was awesome.
That's right. It's the one you've seen at all the Shed Holler barbecues.
Man, yeah, there's nothing like a little diesel donkey to make my day go so much better.
Ready to take your rent to own to the next level? RTO Smart is the all-in-one web-based platform built to simplify and streamline your entire rent-to-own operation. Designed by experts who know the rent-to-own industry inside and out, RTO Smart brings contracts, payments, customer accounts, reporting, and more into one centralized system, so your entire rent-to-own workflow can finally live under one roof. Whether you're a rent-to-own company replacing outdated software or a manufacturer managing your rent-to-own program in-house, you'll gain the control, visibility, and efficiency you need to take your operations to the next level. And when you need support, you'll work with the same knowledgeable people every time. Experts who know the industry inside and out and who know how you operate. Upgrade the way you manage rent-to-own. Visit rtosmart.com to book a live demo today.
And I think the aim, we had heard some, again, one of these background conversations that happens. We had heard a couple weeks ago that it seems like about 20% of sheds, by this person's best guess, are financed privately, financed separately from the actual location. So they're going to a bank, they're going to their own, private lender of whatever regard. But I can tell you from being in the power equipment, small ag, so compact and subcompact tractors, I can tell you that you can pull those type of people, those type of customers over into a finance program at the dealership just because of the convenience. A lot of them are already going to plan on, paying off early. A lot of them are very receptive to the buy down programs, the programs that would offer 0% for 12 months. But, you know, that really brings me to the other side of this, and to your point, how does this affect, and I know some of these relationships are a little different. Of course, you've been an RTO rep, but how does this affect the manufacturers who are receiving a benefit from having RTO
We must be
providers?
in we must be in sync as I'm writing stuff down here. You know, your question is like permeating on my mind before you ask the question because I want you to finish, but I'm guessing where you're going is like, you know, what I wrote down, finance versus RTO. We almost need like a little bell to ring, ding, ding, ding. The reality is, um, we've in some ways we've been maybe even taught, the way RTO has been so competitive, we've almost been taught, you know, uh, uh, something different than the way the rest of the world works. In specifically to when if we're going to talk about like RTO premiums, if we're going to talk about kickbacks, whatever you want to call them, and then we had to get a new furnace here, and when we got a new furnace, it was really I was excited because he said, hey, there's a finance option here, and I was like, well, let's just see where it shakes out. Maybe we'll pay for it, maybe we'll finance it. And then come to find out, whenever he sent me over the options on the finance, it was deferred interest for 12 months. And like, I was like, hey, why burn through 14 grand, right? Why burn through it? I can pay this at, $1,000 a month and there's deferred interest. As long as I pay it off, I don't incur all the interest. Now it cost the provider, it cost the person who sold me to use that program. It cost
Yeah.
them something. That finance program said, whatever it is, they come in. You've heard of all the big ones. There's 15 names out there. Synchrony seems to lead the pack, on a lot of that stuff. But it usually costs you something. If you're selling furniture and you go get a new furniture set, and you say, I want to finance that. Well, that furniture shop is paying to get you into that better rate. And we have just the opposite in the rent-to-own side. We're getting paid because people want business so much that they're willing to pay a manufacturer whatever. 3%, 5%. I've heard up to 9%, kickback to be like, use me, don't use the other person. Or you're seeing a diversion from that chord where you're seeing like rent to own purchasing, manufacturing locations to stop the bleeding of some other rent to own provider coming in. And I won't use the word stealing because I don't think it's stealing. I think, but providing a different solution or maybe even a better solution that would make them want to switch. Well, now if you're vertically integrated, you own that location. But I mean, how are we going to own them all? I mean, like, is so there's a whole big conversation that probably deserves a 3-hour conversation. And really, there's some guys I'd love to get their thoughts on. Like some of these RTO providers, I'd love to get their thoughts on a round table almost and be like, hey, what do you think? As long as everybody stays civil and
Yeah, right. Right.
it would be interesting to get their thoughts.
Well, it goes to the baseline economics of the industry. It goes to the theme of what we've been talking about and what we've been seeing, which is consolidation, gains in efficiency, right? It starts to become, where do you reclaim that margin, or do you? Or do you effectively say that, well, we're not going to reclaim the margin, so we're going to have to make it up in volume so that we have the total net, the bottom line at the end of the year is the same. Nobody wants to go backwards. And so you really start to question some of the fundamental, way that the industry operates as some of these things start to penetrate, which to your point, I think it's only natural that they will. And this particular company that we've heard of kind of taking that up whole cloth, it sounds like it is a good bellwether of that. So again, this is, to me, it is a signal to grow lean. It is a signal to control cost. It is a signal to know your unit economics from day one, or as early on as you can possibly understand what those unit economics are, because this industry is growing up and it's growing up fast, and there's going to be a premium out there not only to the customers, if you can compete on price in as the new world continues to evolve, but also for companies that would then want to come in and look at effectively purchasing a manufacturer, and purchasing more or less their footprint in a territory. Those companies that are operating on good, lean, low cost principles with simple, straightforward solutions, that are very cost effective from the get go. I think this is an exciting time to be some of those companies that are growing lean right now, and it's a grind. I know some of you out there are grinding through it, but keep pushing because the payoff is there.
And you talked about, self-promotion earlier, that, this just seemed like a perfect time to do that. That's why we partnered with Joel. Joel has 28 years of professional banking, behind him. He really led the march, 2 years ago with Upgrade, and was like, getting that can kick down the road sort of thing. And we were discussing back then about how eventually, finance would find its way a little bit more into the fray, naturally. But you've got to have a customer segment that really is attractive to somebody who's offering unsecured loans. Because finance or rent own is just the opposite of that, right? It's no credit check. So you can imagine the debt to income or the FICO scores that you're going to get on a lot of that. And this is where you end up in a conversation with people that's very deep. Why didn't that get approved? It's like, well, that person had a 500 credit score. They're probably more of a candidate for rent own, which is a perfect reason why rent own's not going away anytime soon.
100%.
Like it's a really good tool for a lot of people to get, and they wouldn't otherwise be able to get into a shed, or whatever they're rent owning. They wouldn't be able to have access to that because of possibly poor credit, strained credit. And someone's taking the risk and giving them an option to do that. So I think it's here. I think it's more the balance, right? Like we have this really high balance of rent own, low of finance. Is it because that people aren't in the space yet, or is it because the consumers are not as attractive as a bunch for a finance company, especially with an unsecured loan? Well, I think that's because we've kind of taught the public in rent to own that like come in, no credit check. There are actually people that like have really good credit scores, have plenty of money in the bank that still rent to own, that believe. And you think, how's that possible? But believe that rent to own is hurting or helping their credit in some way. And they're just not aware because they're just not like knowledgeable about how finance works, because it works very simple to something like a simple interest loan, right? But finance is its own baby. It's its own thing. And it has its own opportunity, and hopefully it becomes more competitive. So I think it's good, because the more competitive it gets, it does drive down the opportunity to get those FICO scores into the 500s and 600s, which is not really attractive for probably too many banks out there.
Hey, Shed Geek listeners. I'm Joe Ignis, owner of Velocity 360. At Velocity, we know the frustration of spending thousands on ads with no visibility on what's actually converting. Most leads simply get lost or never called. Ask yourself, does your team respond to every lead within 60 seconds? If they're unresponsive, do they follow up at least 14 times? The reality is your team should be closing, not chasing. They don't have enough time to follow up like they should. All that manual follow-up is exhausting, and it distracts from your hottest leads. Problem solved. Velocity 360 is a white glove, turnkey, shed-specific CRM solution for your sales team. We increase your lead response rate to over 60% without any extra effort from your staff. They just need to pick up the phone and start the conversation once the lead responds. We give you total visibility. You'll see your conversion rates, average sales price, and exactly which ads generate the most revenue and more. No more flying blind. We speak Shed. It's all we do. With 100% American-based support, we build the system for you. We don't just show you how it works. We build it how you want it to work. Stop leaving revenue on the table. Call us at 865-672-8175 or visit velocity360crm.com/sheds to book your call today.
This episode is brought to you by Shed Suite, the complete shed business management software. From inventory and quoting to e-commerce and delivery scheduling, Shed Suite keeps your whole operation running smoothly. Today, Leading shed businesses are focusing on digital marketing and building their online presence because that's where the customers are. That's why Shed Suite now offers full service marketing. Everything from ads, social media, and SEO to stunning websites, branding, video, and even photography. The best part? Your website pulls straight from your Shed Suite inventory. Update it once in Shed Suite and it's live. No more managing two systems like with WordPress or WooCommerce. Ready to grow? Go to ShedSuiteServices.com to learn more and schedule a call. Let's grow together.
Well, and it's not the best RTO customer either. I mean, they're reliable in the sense of like where you're getting a reliable FICO or whatever, but generally, if those people are taking an RTO option, they're paying off early, and we see this in the North all the time. The people that we talk to who are in New York and Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, across the Midwest, those people always tell us that, of course, RTO is a portion of their business, but frankly, they usually have 12-month payoffs, which is not the most profitable way for RTO companies to operate either, right? And so, in any case, it's going to start to reshape what those percentages look like. We got from a fairly reliable source that if you just took all of the RTO contracts in the country, you'd be looking at probably 50% or all sales in the country. About 50% of all sales nationwide would be RTO sales. And then you're talking about maybe 15% currently, and it's probably closer to 10 or 8 that are on a in-house finance of some variety, a true FICO credit sale, finance transaction. And then you have about 20% worth of unknown lender origin, 20 to 30% even. And so like you start, whittling those numbers down, and then you're down to 15 or 20% true cash buyers. And so, bringing that into a model that actually fits the makeup, of the consumer base makes sense. And it will, it will make the industry healthier, but it will also put pressure on some of those providers. But, I agree with you. We should probably have some guests on and talk about, just exactly how that is going to continue to shape. So maybe I'll set you up again, Shannon. Maybe it's a good time to, since we're talking about numbers, maybe it's a good time to talk about our numbers. We've had some good weeks, and I know that you were looking back through those, shuffling them around on your desk as we were getting ready to start the podcast. So I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, or what your sort of perspective is. I know that it's felt great around here. Like we can feel the listens, we can feel the participation. So tell me how you feel about it.
Well, it's almost like year one again, that excitement that I had around year one, even back whenever I was, again, investing into this, kind of like you talk about rent own and finance. I was investing into this, with no known expectations of what I would receive. I invested into it, got a website, bought the equipment, did the thing. But it was like a labor of love, right? And that turned into, that first question was like, hey, can I advertise with you? It was like, sure, let me figure that out. Right. And then, like I was a long way away from the conversation about media kits and things like that when I was just trying to get started. And like, never really developed one until this year, because it's just, I've never really pushed the advertising more than what just kind of came natural. I mean, yeah, we want to get people, and we like the exclusive providers because that's more security long term or whatever. But the thing is, it ebbs and flows like everything else. And, you start to wonder, am I boring, or, are we not bringing good conversations to the table? Has my name taken a hit or something like that? You never know. You go through a lot of stuff in your head, and that can put you in a season of sulking and melancholy, and almost just kind of like, I'm not excited about what I do anymore. And I think I went through a bit of a season of that in year 5, trying to figure out what long term was. And then, so many different things broke. Going to Man Up Camp, I think, was an awesome thing. For those of you guys who want to know more about that, it's actually right there in Courier Mills where the Cardinal Mules are made. There's a fellow who owns a roofing business in our area that's, doing amazing in a multi-state area. And he created this Man Up program where, guys can come for the weekend in October and just, worship
Camp,
and
cook, and worship.
camp and cook and all the things. And I think that helped to start a break, but it's really been the subsequent relationships thereafter with some of those guys in church, some of those guys in small groups, some of those guys in text threads, and yourself, Cord. You've been just excellent, and my wife. I mean, I can't say enough good, for Deanna. That she runs the show around here. If you were in the office, she works faster and more efficient than any of us. But it's just one of those things where like everything came together and all of a sudden the numbers started hitting. And here we are at the end of year 5, and we just went through our best 7-week stretch in listens, downloads, and views than we have since we've started. So here we are going into year 6, and that's reinvigorated me as well too, to just remind me that you go through seasons, just like if you're a shed seller, shed manufacturer, rent-owned company, and you're struggling, you don't struggle forever. It's a season. You just got to remember that. There's a time for everything. Ecclesiastes. Yeah, okay. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Ecclesiastes. Thank you. Seemed like that was just the hardest thing to get across the table. But it talks about, a time for everything. Man, we are just thankful. We're thankful that you guys have tuned in to listen, that you feel like we and the guests we have on here have something to say. I mean, I can't help but encourage you guys to stay engaged on the website, stay engaged on the newsletter. I mean, there's clickable links there. There's blogs on there. Go to our newsletter, check it out. You can read through these details, just like a magazine. You can read through these details of what these people are talking about in their blogs. Click on their links, buy something from them. Show us a little love. If nothing else, we don't charge anybody for the show. Show us a little love. Tell them you heard about it. Them on the Shed Geek podcast. The Shed Geek podcast was able to connect you guys. That's really at the heart of what I want to do is professional networking. I enjoy that and communication more than I enjoy rent-to-own marketing, finance, all these things. I just enjoy getting in front of people, building a relationship, talking, and I miss that. And I feel like year 6 is going to be, it's going to be more of that. I think we're bringing that back to the table. We're focusing on what the people want to talk about, what they want to hear. And really, we're doing it with like just a better spirit rather than that like beat down, gosh, have I lost my flavor kind of thing. Dude, I just feel back. I don't know how to explain that, Cord. I just feel back and I feel like myself more,
Yeah. And I think we're both aiming at, along with all those things, to keep people engaged and have those conversations and be able to reach more people in the way that they are consuming, the content itself, all those things, but then also getting back to the road. We've had so much fun, you and I, up in Millersburg, and out. We took kind of a long way around, going and coming home, and then the expo, same kind of thing, and stopping and seeing people. And so, reach out to us because, we want to come and see you in person and visit and have a meal and do all those things, because this isn't just about, transaction. It's not just about, it's not always about business. It doesn't have to, obviously we want to do good business and we want to uplift the whole industry. A rising tide lifts all boats, as we say all the time. But it's also about the smaller moments, right? It's about learning things about people and their childhood and their upbringing and why they love what they do. I think that's honestly, what fuels me and you both is really just understanding people and getting to know people. And then, obviously we want to work with people as well, but it's just so much fun. I don't know that there are happier people in the world than me and you driving through the hills of Millersburg.
Well, I'm going to tell you too, you get out to Virginia and you get to Paul Yoder's and his wife fixes you some homemade bread. and
goodness.
me and Cord are clawing at it with our bare hands in the truck as we're driving out. Don't judge me, because I'm telling you that was, and then you get some of that Amish peanut butter on top of it and you're just in heaven. I mean, honestly, that, like, those moments are to me what become the memories that we talk about around here. And much less than, oh, we landed that big deal. Now, are we excited for these opportunities? You know, you've heard that phrase, your attitude will determine your altitude. And you talk about the attitude shift here about what, 6 weeks ago at Shed Geek, and like two major opportunities come in where we may be in the manufacturing. And you know what? We're just going to tease you with that. We're going to leave that there. And just, you know, there may be opportunities for us to get into some other things. And we're like, well, thank you. We want to do those things. I mean, whether it's connecting people with lenders, whether it's connecting, I mean, if you're a shop manufacturer and you're like, hey, I need a bank, we can connect you with that. If you're looking to sell, mergers and acquisitions are a real thing. Guess what? Our consultants we haven't really launched it. Maybe it'll be out before we did the podcast. We brought on like 4 or 5 clients so far, but we haven't really like hit it hard, you know, with
True
consulting. We haven't even
proposition.
really,
Yeah.
we haven't even really talked to people about what that is. I don't even know that we have it on our website yet. So we're just slow playing it because we learned our lesson, you know, on marketing. We're doing marketing again. We're back. We're fully engaged. We're starting to bring on clients. We're doing it much different this time. We're much wiser this time around, Cord, about
Intentional.
sort of intentional growth and controlling the customer experience.
Hey, thanks guys for listening to part 1 of 2 of the Shed Geek podcast. We will be back next week for the conclusion of our conversation.
Thanks again, Shed Pro, for being the Shed Geeks studio sponsor. If you need any more information about Shed Pro or about Shed Geek, just reach out. You can reach us by email at info@shedgeek.com, or just go to our website, www.shedgeek.com, and submit a form with your information, and we'll be in contact right away. Thank you again for listening, as always, to today's episode of the Shed Geek podcast. Thank you, and have a blessed day.